Hey everyone, welcome back to TOPHER Drives, where this morning you joined me for a bit of a solo road trip in this 2024 Kia Forte GT. I have been asked to do some cheaper cars, and I don't know that you can get much cheaper than this on the new car market, because the Kia Forte GT starts at just over $26,000. This one, as spec today, is about 28 grand. So this is the first time I've ever road tripped a car under $30,000, and I think this thing is a bit of a hidden gem. Not a lot of people know about this car in the so-called hot compact segment, because obviously this is the top trim, the GT, and I honestly think that Kia does kind of a bad job marketing these cars, because they have the Forte GT, they have the K5 GT. Of course, back in the day there was the Stinger GT, but now without the Stinger, these cars are kind of left to fend for themselves. I don't think a lot of people know about them, so maybe today's video will bring light to this fun, cheap little package. So under the hood of this Kia Forte GT, we have a turbocharged 1.6 liter 4-cylinder engine. It makes 201 horsepower, 195 pound-feet of torque. It's front-wheel drive. It has a 7-speed DCT. This is kind of the sister car to the Hyundai Elantra N line. Not the full N, not the full close to 300 horsepower, 6-speed manual, crazy hot compact that we get from Hyundai. But even though this isn't like a fully hot compact, it is still pretty fun to drive. And you can even still have it with a 6-speed manual transmission. They will still sell you one of those. So what are we doing today? Well, today I'm headed down to see my buddy Sean at Kouth and Mayer in Peoria, Illinois. There's a big car show happening this weekend, and I said that I would make an appearance, the main event by Detail Peoria, and they so graciously invited me out. So we're doing a 750-mile round trip with this car. So the first half of that will be today, 300 and some odd miles. But last night, and it is starting to rain, so we're going to try to make this pretty brief, but last night I got a call from the TOPHER saying, hey, on your way out to Peoria tomorrow, why don't you stop by Jackson Speedway? Because we also have the Mustang Mach-E Rally this week, and he's going to do a couple circuits at Jackson Speedway. So we're going to go and get some fuel, we're going to stop at Jackson Speedway, and then we're going to make our way all the way to Peoria. It is properly raining at this point, so let's quickly go over our road trip essentials here. Here's our trunk space, which is honestly pretty impressive. I've got my suitcase, backpack, pillow back here, plenty of room to spare. If Emily was with me, she would have no problem fitting her stuff. I do love that about the sedans in this class, is that they do kind of look tiny from the outside, but interior space and trunk space is quite mighty, and the story is the same here with this Kia Forte. Give you guys a bit of ASMR from the rain. I've got plenty of room back here. I would say that you could probably road trip this thing with 3 or 4 passengers. We even have a fold-down armrest. You can stick some cups back here. You've got one singular USB-A port, but you even have vents in the middle. The Hyundai Sonata N-Line that we road tripped a couple months back didn't even have central mounted vents. So that is a win for the Forte right there for sure. Headroom back here is okay at 5'11", sat behind myself, plenty of leg room, and I think you could honestly make yourself pretty comfortable in the back seat of this car, which is a bit shocking. Take a look up front, trying to stall, stepping out into the rain. This car has what's called the GT2 package, which is about a $2,000 add-on to the Kia Forte DCT. And what that does is it gives you all sorts of comfortable adornments. Heated and ventilated seats. It gives you a 10-way power driver seat. It gives you a Harman Kardon sound system. It gives you a moonroof. And honestly, I think that that is worth doing, and this car does certainly seem like quite the bargain. Let's jump out real quick, as I think the rain is slowing a bit. And we're going to show you this 1.6 liter, and then we're going to jump on the road, because I am, surprise, surprise, running late to meet the TOPHER at Jackson Speedway. There it is, the 1.6 liter turbo GDI, just over 200 horsepower. Nothing crazy really to see in here. Pretty honest looking engine bay, little engine cover, but looks pretty easy to work on down the road. I don't think you'll really have too much of an issue. No hood struts, but this thing is only 28 grand, so I wouldn't really expect them. Cool. Let's jump in this thing, let's fire it up, and let's go ahead and hit the road. You can see we have GT embossed here on the seats. They call this Syntex. It's not a genuine leather, it is just a Tex material, but that may mean that this will hold up in the long run. Excuse me while I wipe my camera lens. I want to make sure you guys don't have any rain spots on you. Up front, you honestly have everything you need in this car. Really nice, thin, leather-wrapped steering wheel with paddle shifters, flat bottom GT badging at the bottom here as well. I think this really looks quite nice. You've got all the driver aids you could ever ask for, lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control. This is a Kia at the end of the day, so we do have all of that stuff standard in this Forte GT DCT. We have a 10.25-inch infotainment system, no wireless Apple CarPlay, and no USB-C ports up here as well. I had to fish around for my old USB-A cable so I could run CarPlay on this trip, but it does fill up the whole screen. It looks pretty nice, and like I said, it's just everything you need up here. We have a physical climate control panel that, I mean, fits into the dashboard nicely. Vent placement seems to be pretty nice. So the main test here is going to be, can you live with this car for 750 miles and not be miserable? Because there has to be some reasons why this car is so cheap, under 30 grand, 200 horsepower, a bit of a spicy package. Why is it only $28,000? So maybe we'll get to the bottom of that here on this trip. We'll kind of be able to pick out some of the places where Kia cheaped out on this car. But on the surface, this seems like a very compelling choice and very attractive package. So let's jump on the road. We're going to fuel up. I'm not allowed to call it petrol anymore. I'm not allowed to call it gas. I will get yelled at either way. So I'm going to resort to calling it fuel, because that is just kind of a generalized word that makes sense to all people. So we're going to fuel up this car. I think I'm going to stick some 87 in this thing, which will probably also get me yelled at, but it does not require a 93. And we're just going to be driving on the highway. So why put the higher octane? Forte GT is rated at 35 mpg on the highway, which means we should be able to get there and back on one tank of fuel, I would guess. We can only hope, because we are going to be somewhat hypermiling this thing. I'm going to try to be as efficient as possible. From a fun to drive perspective, I know we won't be going over that a ton today, and if you want to know what this thing is like to drive spiritedly, you can head over to the TheTopher channel. He will have a full comprehensive review on this car. But from the past 24 hours or so that I have been driving this thing, it's really fun. It's pretty communicative. The steering is pretty nice. The ride is firm, but it doesn't beat you up too bad. The Forte GT, of course, also gets unique suspension tuning. We get a unique exhaust on this car to complement our 1.6 liter, as opposed to the naturally aspirated 2 liter and CVT that you get on the base model Fortes. Honestly, at the price point, I don't see why everyone wouldn't just step up to the GT. It's only a couple grand more and certainly less miserable than the base Forte. Any rattles that you guys hear in here are probably things that I have strewn around the cabin. With no Emily today, I have tried to be organized, but we'll see how well that works out for me. I'm so used to having passenger princess with me, so I'm trying to do this long trip solo today. Let's see, what side is our filler on? Driver's side. Pull up next to this bro-dozer. Electronic parking brake on this thing. I do wish it had a mechanical handbrake, but alas, just to make it more fun to drive in the snow and you could do nefarious parking brake turns and things. Let's shut this off. Wipers are going to return back to the bottom. That is nice. We have a physical and mechanical pop for our fuel filler door. See that popped open here. We do have a fuel cap on this thing too. A very kind commenter told me on my last road trip video, if you hold second button from the top on the right, it's supposed to mute this very irritating and loud screen, but I don't think it's not working. Dang it, well, it was worth a shot. We just stuck 7 gallons of fuel into the Kia Forte GT, which was right on track for the half tank that this car indicated that it needed. 14-gallon tank in this thing, which means if we get 35 mpg solid with our 5 times 14, we should be able to do 490 miles, which will get us all the way there, but it certainly will not get us all the way there and back, so we will probably have to fill up one more time. Anyways, before we start this thing up, I am going to reset my trip. Sights are set on Jackson Speedway. Let's go ahead and get started. Obviously, maneuverability in this car is top tier because it is just physically so small. I think they've done a pretty good job with the exhaust tuning on this car, not making this 1.6 super droney or super loud and irritating. It makes a pretty mature sound for a 4-cylinder, and you sometimes get fun little snaps from this 7-speed DCT as well between gears. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this climate control back on. Very easy to do so. Everything physical right there, well within reach. Get some air into this cabin. Always love merging behind someone that actually knows what they're doing and merges above speeds of 40 miles per hour. It's always quite refreshing. Bump our wipers back on. No automatic wipers in this car. Not that I would expect automatic wipers to be an option on a sub $30,000 vehicle. A couple of things I think we're going to run into today. The number one downside to this car is definitely going to be noise inside the cabin. As far as road noise, as far as wind intrusion goes, I suspect that part of the cheapness of this car is definitely lack of insulation. You don't think of a Kia Forte as being a big luxury barge that is going to be quiet for you going down the road. And some of the cars in this segment, the Honda Civic, the Corolla, they've kind of been working towards making their cars quieter, but this Kia Forte, this generation has been out for quite a while now. It's definitely due for a bit of a refresh or just an entirely new generation. So I think we're going to see a bit of that today for sure. Under first impressions here on the highway, I'm glad we have the GT2 package, because what that allows you to do is give yourself so much lumbar adjustment. This lumbar pops out even further than the Mustang EcoBoost that Emily and I road tripped a few weeks ago here on the channel. So I have high hopes for the actual seat in this Kia Forte GT. I don't know that I have super high hopes for elbow placements and kind of other comfort items here in the cabin. We do have somewhat soft touch points here for our left elbow on the door panel and for our right elbow on the center console. They've got a little bit of give to them, but they certainly could be softer. So I kind of envision myself maybe not really using those, maybe resting my hands here on the bottom of the steering wheel to get comfortable today. But I'm hoping that this Harman Kardon sound system is able to drown out some of this road noise. You guys can kind of hear just how loud this car is as we drive down the road. Alrighty guys, well I'm going to settle in here. I've only got a half hour to go to Jackson Speedway. We'll rip a couple laps around with the TheTopher in the Mach-E Rally, and then we'll jump on, we'll get this thing dialed in, we'll use our cruise control and everything, and we will eat up all of the miles all the way down to Peoria, Illinois. As we get ready to exit here to Jackson Speedway, just wanted to give you guys a quick MPG check. Over the last 43.6 miles, 38.3 MPG. I actually spent my first half of the week in this Mach-E Rally, and I didn't do a standalone video for TOPher Drive. So I'm happy I'm able to bring you guys just a touch of what this thing is like to drive. So we're gonna go ahead and jump in passenger seat with the TOPher, rip around, and then we'll jump back on the road in our lovely little Forte GT. It's probably good that I haven't eaten breakfast yet this morning.
Yeah, definitely good. I'm here with Substitute TOPher. This is a twofer. He's filming too.
Yes.
So
good morning.
TOPher POV Inception today. Savage geese, as always.
Is that good? A little bit more. Okay. What about that one?
Yeah, that one too.
Okay.
I'll just drive it.
Just Uber me to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
Thank you so much for that.
Alright, how are these geese doing?
Ah! Geese!
It's doing rally car things. I'm in love. Christopher, this is the best Mach-E.
Yeah, this is excellent.
We gotta kind of make the geese migrate.
Yeah.
They're gonna go back over there. That's love a good field.
Mm-hmm. Can I make an observation?
Yes. Oh boy. One tunnel drive fault. There we go.
Oh my goodness. The angle is wild.
All-wheel drive will save you. This is just lovely. Having a great time, Christopher. Wider line around here.
You know the term pig in blank? It's TOPher on a rally course. Ooh.
The fun is kind of over.
Yeah.
So now we just kind of limp it home. Almost done. Almost done. Must be undone.
You wake up and you said that you can't be alone.
It's been about an hour since we departed from Jackson Speedway. Just over 250 miles left on the trip, just under 4 hours. I thought I would check in with you guys and also conduct some important business. Go over a couple of things on the car as well. So far on the drive, 127 miles, we are averaging 38.6 mpg. We're at just about 3/4 of a tank on our fuel level, and at 75 miles an hour, we are revved just under 3,000 RPM. So as far as that sort of thing goes, it's looking to be quite efficient so far. And as we get nice and settled into the highway here, I am going to attempt to eat some lunch. I brought all of my food with me today to try and avoid going through a drive-thru and just eating some greasy stuff that's not going to agree with me on this quite long drive today. So we're going to test out the lane keep assist, the steering assist, everything, and we're going to eat a couple of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that I made for myself with some homemade blackberry jam that Emily and I made a couple of weeks ago. Now, I made 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to conduct a bit of research here, a bit of a side quest while we are floating down the highway in the Forte GT. I made one sandwich with mine and Emily's homemade blackberry jam, and I made the other peanut butter and jelly sandwich with Jeremy Clarkson's blackberry jam that Emily ordered from me from the Diddly Squat Farm Shop website. So we're going to do a bit of a peanut butter and jelly comparison, throw in a B-roll shot of the Comparo. The darker one is Jeremy's, the lighter one, the kind of red looking one, is ours. So we'll see how they compare back to back, same bread, same peanut butter. Kind of like a track test where you run all the cars on the same tires, but you know, the car is a bit different. But before we get into that, I quickly want to just cover a couple of things on this car, and I want to talk about the cruise control really quick, because I like that you're able to adjust kind of the rapidness, the response of this adaptive cruise in the infotainment. You can go slow, normal, or quick for how quick the car reacts. But as you can see by the way that this Blazer was able to get in front of me, even on the fastest reaction setting with this adaptive cruise control, and look at how far away he's getting from me before the car is reacting. I do wish this accelerated just a bit quicker and kind of got into the groove of things a little bit faster, because you do kind of feel like you're impeding traffic in this car at times. So I have been helping it with the accelerator pedal, just kind of getting up with traffic. For the most part, obviously, the lane keep assist, the steering assist, I mean, that all does a really fantastic job. These Kia, Hyundai, and Genesis vehicles will let you go quite a long time without touching the steering wheel. And they stay pretty well centered. I mean, this is a $28,000 car, and it does the thing. It does just fine. I think I'm going to be able to safely eat my PB&Js with no lane departure, so that is a good thing. As you guys can see, I mean, this thing is just, it's doing a great job on its own. I think it could do this whole trip without me. It just, for legal reasons, I need to be here with it. We're going to start out with the Jeremy Clarkson Diddly Squat sandwich, cut diagonally, obviously. I'm glad this dump truck here has that sign on the back, because I was planning on just driving into him at full speed. Oh, save myself some trouble. I wonder if those berries I just ate were collected with a vacuum cleaner. Not sure. Okay, let's go ahead and compare now to the Topher Drives and Emily jam. You can see our jam has a little bit more of a purple-red hue to it. Upon concluding that very important research that we just did there, I think I'm going to lean towards my jam because, okay, a couple of reasons. I can taste the berries a bit better in ours. That could be down to some discrepancies with the berries, of course, ours being sourced from Michigan and Jeremy's being from Chipping Norton. But also upon making the sandwiches, I found it easier to spread our jam because Jeremy's had a lot of large chunks and almost full berries in some parts of it. So both of them have great flavor. I don't think I have any sort of hits against any of them. I would give, obviously would give ours 9.5 out of 10, and I would give Jeremy's like a 9.2. Both delicious, but I would edge ours out slightly. Maybe we should sell our own blackberry jam. Anyways, I have also brought some Diddly Squat Jeremy's hot beef jerky, so we'll be eating some of that later off camera. But maybe I'll start memberships for the channel and insert an entire 10-minute block of me just eating those PB&Js straight. Some of you may enjoy that. So, okay, well, I think that's good enough for a little bit of an update here as I'm on the road. I'll give you guys another update once I'm a little bit closer, once I've sat in this thing for a couple more hours and can evaluate this seat a little bit better. As for now, I am going to adjust my lumbar just a bit. It is starting to wear on my back somewhat, so that should help me out. I also want to talk about how frustrating the two-lane highway system in America, or at least in Michigan in the Midwest, is. And I always get comments, or I don't always get comments, but I sometimes get comments of people yelling at me for driving in the left lane, driving in the middle lane, whatever that may be. And I agree with you. You should never be driving in the left lane unless you're passing. That's it. You should only drive in the right lane when you are traveling, and that goes for a 3-lane highway as well. The middle and the left lane should be used for if you are passing. I agree with you guys. I can already see the comments of people yelling at me for, I don't know if I've spent any time in the left lane here on today's trip. But the problem is, okay, with these 2-lane setups, is you have long lines of cars that pass, 3, 4, 5, 6 semis at a time, and then it ends up building up, and the whole, left lane being used for passing thing just doesn't work. Not to mention all of the people that just simply camp in the left lane. So right now, yes, I'm driving in the left lane, I'm passing a semi, and if it were up to me, I mean, I would jump over here for a second while I'm in between passing semis. There's a little bit of a gap here, right? So I can travel here, I can let a couple of cars pass me. This is plenty of time if I've got faster traffic behind me. The problem is, all of these people here that just get bunched up in a line of 20 cars. And admittedly, sometimes I get bunched up in these lines of 20 cars too, because there's nothing you can really do. And obviously, ideally, you drive like this, how I'm driving right now. You make your pass, you get back over to the right-hand side, but that is just sometimes not feasible. I mean, look at this line of cars here in the left right now. There's probably 20 cars here traveling. Granted, we are traveling at a good enough speed, but it's tough, guys. And then you get caught up in the situation of, I've got my cruise control on right now, I'm passing this truck on the right, which is also something that you should not do. you should only want to pass on the left, but sometimes you have to pass on the right if people are hogging the left, or if there's a big line of cars, or what, if you need to make your move. So overall, it just becomes an incredibly frustrating situation, and I honestly kind of understand why people just sit over here in the left lane. I'm going to turn cruise off for a sec so this truck doesn't think I'm brake checking him. I can understand why people just sit here in this long line of cars, because like it only takes one or two people to completely screw it up for everybody. Hopefully that makes sense. You guys know that I understand how to properly drive on the highway, so take your comments back if you have already written them. Anyways though, hopefully I'll be able to break through this long line of cars up here at some point, but until then, enjoy the next series of clips and time lapses, and I'm going to catch up with you guys once I am closer to the end of the trip, once I've sat in this car and really gotten a feel for it.
Can't be alone tonight. These are days that I find. I'm just waiting for tonight.
You guys joined me a few hours later on a much more chill 55-mile-an-hour back road. Happy to be out of that dreadful Chicago-esque area traffic. It's always the worst thing in the entire world, and unfortunately I didn't have Charlie here to drive for me through all of that madness, but I do have my ventilated seat on setting 3, and it is working an absolute treat to try and relieve some of that stickiness and sweat from the traffic. I also have my lumbar all the way extended out as my back has started to take a toll on itself, I suppose. But overall, I wanted to talk about what it's been like to sit in this thing for, at this point, about 6 hours. I hit some traffic that was a bit unexpected, though I should have expected it, even though it wasn't on the nav at first. Sat through about 40 minutes of traffic, so that has added on to my ETA. I actually have not stopped at all. I've been going strong. I've got 49 miles to E, indicated on the car, 35 miles to go, which is a bit strange considering that I've done 363 miles. We've been averaging 37.4 mpg, and I did the math. At 37 mpg with a 14-gallon tank, I should be able to do over 500 miles. So I think this is a little bit conservative on its estimate on how far I actually have to go before I run out of fuel completely. But anyways, I'm getting distracted. How has this thing been to sit in? For the most part, and for what it is, for a $28,000 car, it has been more than satisfactory. I'm really happy with how this thing has done. It's easy to drive, it's easy to float along the highway in. The actual seat itself, I'm not super mad at. My butt has gotten a little bit uncomfortable. There's an okay amount of lumbar, and you do have the heated and cooled settings to kind of ease yourself of some of that tension. What I don't super care for are these elbow spots, which means I've been driving with my hands at the bottom of the steering wheel, just kind of resting my arms at my side, because if I try to drive like this with my left arm, this kind of hard elbow spot, it does wear on you quite a bit, and it becomes quite uncomfortable. Middle of nowhere, Dollar General. Shouldn't be surprised about that anymore. Let's burn our MPG just a little bit more. Do kind of a spirited start here from this stop sign. This thing can boogie. I mean, 200 horsepower, it weighs like just over 3,000 pounds, so it's quick enough. I've noticed while making passes in traffic and everything, definitely an adequate amount of power here in this car. So no problem there whatsoever. I have taken another couple of miles off my fuel range, but it's okay. We've got plenty of fuel. Otherwise, everything in here has been very straightforward and easy to use. I've had no issues with the infotainment. Climate control, very easy to adjust. It's right here. Steering wheel controls for the cruise control, the lane keep assist, steering assist, all very easy to turn on and off. So I really don't have any genuine complaints about this car, because you have to remember, this is a sub $30,000 compact car that's based on a, I mean, close to $20,000 car. The bones of this car are closer to $20,000. You know, we have some upfitting packages in this, but overall, a pretty impressive thing. I don't think it quite feels up to the point of quality of the Honda Civic. I think Honda really has the top spot in this segment with the Civic, especially now that I've driven the 2025 and have seen some of the adjustments that they've done. This car, it does feel slightly dated, but I do think it is still adequate for the current market. Some of the hard plastics in here, the lack of sound deadening does kind of show the cheapness of this car. But overall, it's been able to do everything I've needed it to do, and I'm still in an okay mood. It has not annoyed me, so I would say that that is quite the pass for this Forte GT. Welcome to part 2 of the road trip, and welcome to Autobahn Country Club in Joliet, Illinois. I cheated a little bit and did about 2 hours of my drive yesterday off camera, but we are still going to spend the last 4 hours of my trip together today in the Kia Forte GT. I'm just about getting ready to leave. We're going to go to the gas station, fill this thing up one more time. I did fill it up off camera on my first day. Average MPG ended up being around 37.5 MPG. And I want to say when we left off last, when I stopped the camera, the car thought I only had 20 or 30 miles to E. And well, this is a 14-gallon tank. When I went to put gas in it, it only took just over 11 gallons. So it still had almost 3 gallons in the tank, meaning I could have gone just about another 100 miles, even though the car thought I could only go 20. So there's that cleared up. I think I wanted to say that on day one and I forgot. But let's jump back in the Forte GT and get back out on the road. I inhaled a gnat or a fly or something, and my voice is totally off, so apologies for that. But I have used almost an entire tank of fuel off camera. We've been kind of using this as a support vehicle this weekend for the car show, running cars back and forth. This was kind of the chase car for that. We've used it all around the Autobahn complex this weekend. So quite a few miles. Let's see, how many miles have I put on this since it's been dropped off? 733 miles I've put on this Kia Forte GT. Actually, I think like 50 of those were the TOFR, so almost 700 miles myself. And we've done 213 miles in this car off camera, and it's done 28.6 mpg. So some spirited driving mixed in there. Just kind of overall combined figure, still close to 30 mpg. So can't say I'm mad at this car for anything at all. If I've learned anything this weekend, it's just how easy this car is to live with. And that comes down to just simple things like ingress and egress, getting comfortable in this driving position, being able to just get your music going immediately, get your climate control set. Everything is very straightforward, everything is very quick, everything is very easy. Not a whole lot of thought has to go into it, and that's what makes cars like this so attractive. We had a couple of discussions with my buddy Sean and his dad this weekend about how $28,000 to a car enthusiast seems like a lot. To a normal person, it doesn't seem like a lot, because a car enthusiast is thinking, well, what could I have on the used market for $28,000? I mean, you could have an Aston Martin or a Porsche or something that's 15 years old, heavily depreciated, but is still $28,000. So that makes you think, well, why would I buy this Kia when I could just have an Aston Martin Vanquish? Well, the obvious answer to that is that the Kia has a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, and also just the ease of ownership. Not having to wake up in the morning and worry, is my car going to start? Is it going to be firing on all cylinders? How many warning lights am I going to have on today? So what I'm trying to say is the Kia Forte GT makes sense for somewhat of an enthusiast that would normally want to get an exciting car, but may not consider something like this. So it's something to think about. I'm not telling you to buy this car, but I'm telling you to consider something like this. The Forte GT, the Elantra N-Line. Let's get pulled in here to this gas station that is directly next to a racetrack, which means that the prices are likely quite inflated, but that's okay because it is conveniently placed. We're gonna fill this Kia Forte up to the brim. I'm gonna jump back on the highway and we will continue our road trip. Oh, and that is quite the machine there, a C4 on some 3 spokes. 4 hours and 10 minutes in total. Let's go ahead and get started with our final leg of the journey. You guys joined me in stop and go traffic as a result of a poor choice on my part. When the road split to go 2 ways, I chose the section of road that is completely flooded. So I've been traveling at about 15 miles an hour here for the last 5 or so minutes, but I thought that while I was stopped, I'd throw the camera back on, and that would give me a good opportunity to go ahead and wrap my thoughts up on the Forte GT. Before I give you my final thoughts though, why don't we do a sound system test here on this Harman Kardon system, which I have been listening to here for the past 3 hours, and I think does a pretty dang good job. So I'll go ahead and get a sound queued up, and we'll take a listen. Honestly, the competition is heating up quite a bit in this segment as far as sound systems go. I'm a pretty big fan of the Bose and the Honda Civic. I think this takes a really close second to that system. It's definitely better than the JBL in the Corolla, and it sounds better than, I believe, what is it, a Bose system in the Elantra? So a pretty dang solid system. Not the best with complex music, but again, as I've said for like the 20th time in this video, it's a $28,000 car, so we can't expect perfection. Not the best with super complex stuff, but it gets the job done. It's got enough power, surprisingly. I guess that brings us to our final thoughts on the Kia Forte GT. This car is regular enough to where you can go on a trip like this and get 37 miles to the gallon, be comfortable enough, and not really stick out. I mean, this is kind of like an NPC-ish car, which I do kind of like from time to time. But also, you can put it in a sport mode. You can use these paddle shifters, switch your own gears on the DCT. It's got a really good sound system. It's fun to drive. I like the steering. I like the chassis. I really enjoyed the one of these that we had 2 years ago, and this trip has really solidified my enjoyment of the Kia Forte GT. It's a really solid contender in the segment, and it's definitely very frequently overlooked. So hopefully this video will help bring some light to this car. First half of the trip, just over 37 mpg. Second half of the trip, just under 37 mpg. I think it's safe to say that overall average over the last 700 miles, by the end of the trip, it'll be about 750. We've done 37 miles per gallon in this car, and that is 2 mpg over the EPA's estimate of 35. I would like to try the 6-speed manual version of this someday. I still have not been able to do that, but I do really like the DCT, and I think you'd be happy with it as well. So, on that, I think that's going to wrap it up for us today on our 750-mile road trip on the Kia Forte GT. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and make sure to comment below if you have any questions about this car. But I think that's it. I don't think I've got anything else to say. If I do, this video will be an hour long, so we'll go ahead and we will stop it there. Again, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Take care. We are completing our pass and getting back over to the right, as is intended, the American highway system.